and welcome to the show. I'm Peter Whittle. Now, a few months ago, you might remember we did a documentary with Alex Phillips in our Heritage series, which was all about the increased violence and sexual violence which was being faced by women in Britain. So I'm very pleased today to have with me Anna McGovern, who is a commentator and journalist, and she is from the new organisation just been set up, which is called Women's Safety UK. Is that right, Anna?
Women's Safety Initiative. That is our handle, though, so it's correct.
Right, Women's Safety Initiative. Mm-hmm. Can you explain, before we go into the whys and wherefores, what it is actually? Is it a campaign? Or?
So the Women's Safety Initiative is an organisation that brings women together on a united issue about the problem of mass immigration in the UK. So when we came up with this idea, we felt that there was something missing in the UK, because I think especially for women, they are more at risk of crimes against migrants. Yeah. And this is so what we've done is we've set up this organisation to empower women to speak up about their experiences and support victims as well. Right. We'll also be setting up chapter networks across the UK. Right. So those are women from across the UK where they have communities of other women where they can speak about their experiences and come together and support one another.
Because there is nothing like this in the UK, is there, at the moment? I believe there's something similar, is there not, in France?
Yeah. So there's Collective Nemesis in France, where that's actually where we got inspired by this idea as well, because in France there was a network of women that came together on this issue as well, because it's increasingly becoming a problem in France. Right. So that's how we became inspired to set up this initiative in the UK, and it's received so much support, more than we could have even imagined, because I think especially for many women it resonates with them very deeply. That, like, women that we speak to, they all have very similar stories where they've been targeted, where they've been harassed, sexually abused. So what we do is we come together and give them a space where they can support one another and talk about their experiences.
Hello, please excuse this brief interruption, but I'd be really grateful if you could please hit the subscribe button and subscribe to our channel. Our mission is vitally important, and we must grow this channel to ensure that our content reaches the biggest possible audience. The best way to do this is for you to subscribe. It's totally free. And in addition to subscribing, if you're able to donate or join our membership scheme, please click on the link in the description or visit our website, newcultureforum.org.uk. We've got great plans ahead, but we can't do it without your support. From only £4 per month, you'll receive a range of perks and benefits, including exclusive content. Thank you. So it's sort of totally independent. It's not party political or anything like that.
No, we've got women who identify as right-wing, women who identify as left-wing as well, because it's a non-partisan issue, and it's about bringing women together.
Yeah, but isn't it still the case, Anna, that, this isn't talked about, is it, in the mainstream, really? I mean, when we put our programme out, which was covering a lot of this sort of material, it was, I think, the first one, actually, of its kind. So, I mean, why do you think that is?
I think it's because for many women, they're afraid to speak out about this issue in case they're called racist. So, for example, there was a Metro article that came out recently, which was a hit piece on Jess Gill for being the founder of this organisation. This journalist never contacted Jess to talk about why she set up the organisation. I believe there was also spelling mistakes in the article as well. Yeah. So not properly researched. What she did, as she described, is went through Jess's Twitter account and pulled out a couple of quotes and never actually spoke to Jess about what inspired her to set up this organisation. She actually described it as far right to do that. Right. How is it far right to talk about these issues? And I just thought it was absolutely disgraceful.
Yeah. What are the kinds of things that women are facing then?
So all the women that we speak to have very similar stories. For myself, a couple of years ago, I was walking home from work at about midnight, and what I didn't realise is that I was actually being followed for several minutes. Right. And as I was a couple of minutes away from my house, I felt someone grab me from underneath my legs, and I turn around and I scream because I was shocked, and this man starts speaking in a foreign language to me and blowing kissy faces. I had to run to get away from him. When I reported this to the police, I found out there were about 5 or 6 other girls who'd had similar experiences in the area. And after about 2 years where they were speaking to us victims, he did eventually get deported. But that did take 2 years for that to happen. Yeah. There's other women as well. Even myself, like back a few months ago, I was recording in Reading town centre, and I had a group of about 7 Just Eats delivery drivers who started recording me. And one of them coming up to me and kept harassing me, trying to ask my social media accounts. And even though I kept saying no, he kept following me, and all of them filming me. There's other women with similar stories like myself. And I actually, as well, on a podcast recently that I did with Rupert Lowe, I was on a presenter's show and I shared this story about what happened to me when I was followed back from work. Yeah. And the first thing the presenter asked me when I said this was a foreign man who did this, he said, "Are you sure? Are you sure it was a foreign man, or are you just saying that?" Almost accusing me of virtue signalling for talking about my story as if it had some political point behind it. These are real experiences. So what we've done with this organisation, we've set this up so women have that space that they can talk about their experiences without fear of being called racist, because this is not racist to talk about. These are real life stories.
You know, you mentioned there about the Metro story, Metro being newspaper in London, right? Yes. What is the other, well, I think I know the answer to this maybe, but what has the media, response been to your campaign on the whole?
On the whole, it has been very supportive. I mean, when we set up our Twitter account, in less than a week, we had over 10,000 followers. Right. Our GoFundMe page raised over £3,250 in the space of a week. Right. And we've recently, just yesterday, actually set up our membership platform where women could sign up to our organisation. We've had over 150 women actually sign up in less than 24 hours. So we've had a lot of support for our initiative, because I think for many women, this issue resonates with them very deeply, and there's not really an organisation like it in the UK.
Yes. Okay, that's the media response. What do you think, what have mainstream feminists been like? I mean, it's my perception that basically when it comes to this issue, when you're talking about the various safety issues that now women face because of mass migration, they steer clear of it on the whole.
I think so, because I think for the issues that we're speaking about, it may not necessarily come across as politically incorrect, but what we're talking about is these are real life statistics, these are real life stories. And like, for example, what we spoke about, that Metro piece, that journalist simply just took one look at Jess's X account and a very brief look at the Women's Safety Initiative account, and then came up with the conclusion that it was a far right organisation, which is absolutely not the case. So I think for what we want to do is to support those women to come together and say, hey, it's not racist to talk about these issues. It shouldn't be branded as such, because these are real life situations that are happening, and we want to give those solutions even to those in power for what they can do to protect women going forward.
Yes. What actually would you like to see happen? I mean, have you got aims, as well as obviously wanting to give women support, solidarity? Have you got particular aims you...
So on our website, we've got a whole list of issues that we want to cover and aims that we hope to achieve. We have only started a couple of weeks ago, so we are a new organisation, but we've got lots of plans in the pipelines. Firstly, what we want to do is we want to support victims of grooming gangs, and we'll actually speak to them and work with them with solutions about how to protect other women in the future, and also what the government can do to act. So we want to speak to those victims and ensure that their voices are heard. We also want to give women a platform to talk about their own stories, their own experiences, and keep raising awareness, because I do think this is majorly unreported. It goes unreported in the media because, again, it might not be very politically correct. And also, as I said, we want to set up chapters across the UK. So that will be women from different parts of the UK. They'll have a chapter leader, their representative, and that will be a space for them to have other women that they can talk to, support one another, and keep raising awareness of these issues. What we want to do is include the voices of women in the, the stances and the positions that we take moving forward.
You know, when you have these, you talk about political correctness, etc. When you have like that guy, the presenter, saying, well, are you sure this guy was foreign, for example? You just described that story. It seems to me that they don't want to admit of anything which goes against the kind of narrative that multiculturalism and immigration, is an absolutely desirable thing. And so, the last thing you can have, in a way, is sort of like stats which show that, in fact, certain nationalities are more prone to violence towards women.
Yeah, exactly. And what we've said as well is that when you're importing a culture en masse that do not respect women, you're going to see more of these crimes happen, which is what we're seeing. And I've had this experience as well with that presenter who just immediately disregarded almost my experience. And the first thing he comes to ask me is, are you sure he's a foreign man?
Yes.
Even though I went through 2 years of a criminal investigation, I had to work with the police and talk to them about my experience, other women involved in this as well. And that's the first thing he thinks to ask of me, because even by mentioning that he's a foreign national, which is correct, I mean, it's almost like the implication that I'm racist for saying that, it shouldn't be racist to talk about these things.
No. Are there particular areas where the problem is more acute, in the country?
I think, I think one of the statistics that we've been, raising awareness of, we had a recent campaign. Yeah. So 1 in 4 sex crimes are committed by foreign nationals in the UK. Wow. What we're also doing as well is with the stories that we've got a list of stories on our website that we've broken down examples of women that have been victim of sex offences by foreign nationals. We've gone through that on our website, and what we're going to do is just keep raising awareness of that, keep speaking up for those women, empowering victims to share their own experiences as well.
Yes. Were you sort of politically interested or, in campaigning before this? Or you're a journalist, as I said, but have you ever done anything like this before? Or?
This is a very new initiative. This is not something that we've seen, I believe, ever exist really in the UK, especially now. This is something that I've taken an interest in, I think, just from my own experience as well, having personally been subjected to this. Yeah. And before, when I have spoken about these issues, I have had support from people who've resonated with my experience and might have similar stories. But I've also had, on the other side, people saying, oh, you're racist for speaking up about this, even though these are real life stories, these are real life experiences. So I think the power in this organisation is bringing women together and raising awareness of these issues, which I think is why we've seen a lot of support for it as well.
Yes. Your friends, your personal friends, your peer group, are they having similar experiences to the one that you had? Yeah,
so many of the women that I've spoken to and that I know, they've had very similar experiences as well. So Jess went on GB News a couple of weeks ago, and she spoke about how her and our friend Elizabeth, who's part of the organising team, they had a picnic in a fairly nice area of London, and there was a man who was just beeping at them consecutively. Also women that, like Jess, again, goes out of her
accommodation. Beeping what, in his car?
Yeah, to clarify, he's beeping in his car consecutively. They didn't know why. He's very uncomfortable. Also, where she's come out of, she lives in London, she comes out of her accommodation, she's got people making comments at her about her appearance, even if she's not wearing something that's revealing. Yeah. And many of the women that we've worked with that have now joined the organisation have spoken about similar issues they've had, or even we've had grandmothers sign up to our organisation as well, who are scared about the future of their children.
Yes. I mean, I remember, Alex Phillips talking about this, and she'd had experiences of people following her and all of this in London. She and basically, again, so had many of her friends. Do you think that some women stay quiet as well because they don't want they're nice liberal middle class women. They don't want to sort of almost sort of bring up the racial aspects of it.
I think as well there's the fear for women. So I'm fortunate that I have a platform that I can speak about these issues, but for many women that is not the case. You know, they're working and their job pays for their rent, for their bills, and I've seen before at protests and events where women have actually had to wear face masks because if they get identified by their job for just even being there, being at certain events, that they could risk losing their jobs and their entire livelihood as a result, which I think is such a shame. But then I wonder if maybe they were aligning themselves with what might be seen as a left-wing issue. Would they have that? I don't think so.
No, I think it's no question about that. What are the other areas? You mentioned grooming gang victims there. Well, rape gang, I prefer to do that's what they are, rape gangs.
Absolutely.
Apart from this, what are the other areas do you think that women are facing, danger in? I mean, you mentioned at the very beginning, like there was the trans issue, and it seems that women generally have been sort of under a bit of an onslaught in recent years. We did a report here at the New Culture Forum some time ago about female genital mutilation. Admittedly, it was about 10 years ago now, but there are all these different areas, aren't there? It's not just about, you're talking about harassment, presumably in the streets, on public transport and all of that. What are the other sort of areas that you think are real problematic for women?
So the rape gangs, as you've mentioned, that is such a big problem for women. And that's why one of our issues that we want to work on moving forward is actually working with those victims of grooming gangs to help come up with real solutions moving forward and empowering women. So it's not just harassment, even though that is, I would say that's one of the most pertinent issues that we're seeing in the UK for women, harassment on the streets, being victims of sex offences. And we're also seeing, the grooming gangs and rape gangs, that we'll call it that. That's been such a big issue, and that's I think with us as an organisation, what we want to do is work on real solutions, bring this to attention to the government and those in power, because these are real issues.
Actually, what has the political response on the whole been? By that I mean political parties and things. Do they take this issue seriously, do you think?
So we've had members of Parliament coming forward and supporting us. Rupert Lowe in particular has been a big supporter of what we're doing. We're incredibly grateful for that. And I believe he's also working on his own inquiry into the rape gang scandal, which is, you can see that on Twitter. They've done really in-depth research, and they're working across with different members of Parliament as well from different political parties to raise awareness of this issue, which I think is incredibly important. So we are seeing support from politicians from both sides of the political spectrum. So I think the thing is, with our organisation, we are non-partisan and we're raising awareness of these issues. I mean, I think at the same time, what we also seen from maybe the other side who've not necessarily been as supportive will just be branded as far right, which I think is completely incorrect.
Yes, it's like a bit like free speech being branded a far right issue. It's quite extraordinary how that would happen, actually. But I mean, as I mentioned earlier, it strikes me that, like with the rape gangs as well, is that many feminists, they haven't been out protesting on the streets about this. I mean, if you, for example, with the Women's Safety Initiative, if you wanted to have like a big demo or hold a kind of event or whatever, would they come out for it, do you think, women?
So we're actually planning something in the future like that.
Do tell.
Yes, so we're planning, so for example, like similar to what Posey, Parker, Kelly Jean, where women speak about their own experiences, that's more with the trans issue. We're planning similar events like that, and we have a protest being planned, but can't give any more details about that just
great.
yet.
What, like sort of like a demonstration or just
a demonstration where women can speak about their own personal experiences and support one another and raise awareness of what the Women's Safety Initiative does, what our goals are, and to bring it to attention to those in power and authority and bring those solutions. Yes,
I think in some ways maybe it'd be good if you had some kind of quite well-known figure as well to endorse your campaign or something. That would sort of help. As a journalist, I mean, you've been a journalist for how long now? You're just starting out, or
well, I'm studying my NCTJ course, so then I guess it makes me, an official journalist. I don't know, but I've been in this space for a couple of years now.
Oh, right. What do you usually write about then, Anna? Is there any particular speciality you have? You write about?
So I think for me, it's about women's issues. That's one thing that I've written about and spoken about widely. This is why I'm so passionate about this organisation as well, because it really resonated with me and my values and what I believe in. Also issues within, the country, the UK, and also I think as well from a young person's perspective, because I think in this field you probably don't see people like me in their early 20s talking about these issues. It's quite rare.
Yeah.
So, speaking up for women and maybe being a voice for young people.
Yes. Well, look, all power to you, going forward. It's a brilliant initiative, really, very, very much needed, not before time, I have to say. We have members for whom we like to do a few more questions. So I'd like you to stay with me, Anna, if you will, for that. But in the meantime, Anna McGovern, and by the way, how can people support you? Where can they find you, as it were, on social media? What should they look for?
So my personal social media, on my Twitter, it's Anna McGovern UK.
Yep.
And if anyone's watching and would like to sign up as a member of the Women's Safety Initiative, you can find us across all social media platforms with the Women's Safety UK as our handle.
Right, I see. So that's on X and Facebook, Instagram,
TikTok, and we've got our website as well.
Oh, and a website too. There you go. You can't really miss. Thanks very much indeed, Anna. We shall see you next week. Good night. Our mission at the New Culture Forum is and always has been to defend and celebrate Britain's history, culture and its people, and indeed Western civilization, at a time when both are under sustained attack. We have grown from small beginnings to become the country's most influential right-leaning cultural think tank. Our content is watched and read by some of Britain's most influential political figures. But now, we need your help. If you believe in what we do, then please do become a member. For as little as £4 a month, you can make a vital contribution to what we do. As a member of the NCF family, you will help ensure that we can continue to produce quality content online, such as our 3 weekly programmes, Whittle, which is our flagship interview show, Newspeak, our panel discussion show, and Deprogrammed, which is targeted at Britain's youth. As you probably know, in addition, we produce important documentaries, such as our critically acclaimed 6-part series, The West, a stunning celebration of the history and genius of Western civilization, and our ongoing documentary series, Heresies, with hard-hitting episodes tackling subjects such as immigration, gender ideology, and BBC bias. But the New Culture Forum is much more than a YouTube channel. We don't just complain about Britain as it is, we provide real solutions and clear policies on how we can push back against the madness and restore sanity to this nation. Our presenters are now highly sought after and have become familiar faces across the media. Our prestigious annual Smith Lecture and our regional and indeed national conferences have attracted world-class speakers. Perhaps most importantly, we are the only organisation on the right of politics that has launched a national movement without actually being a political party. And uniquely, through our NCF Locals programme, we've established some 30 active branches in towns and cities right across the nation, from Edinburgh to Exeter, and with many more on the way. We're very proud of what we've achieved, and our members have made it possible. In return, Our members receive access to exclusive content, invitations to private events, free or discounted tickets to our conferences and lectures, free copies of our books, and much more. I very much hope that you'll join us too by clicking the link in the description or going to our website, newcultureforum.org.uk. Now is the time that we need your help. Thank you.